Priscilla. I'm so glad that you're joining me today. It's going to be a great episode of The Chat. This is the place where we come and we just hang out together, talk about things that are important. And today I've got a couple of folks that are important, not only because they are known by lots of people, they minister to a lot of different people, but because of their private lives, the integrity that they hold in their private lives as husband, wife team that are serving the body of Christ and doing it well. We're going to talk to them about marriage. We're talking about your marriage, why marriage is such a beautiful thing, and how God can even take your messes and make a miracle out of them in your marriage. It's going to be a great show, so stay tuned. Because we are talking to a couple of folks that really are incredible people. Have you heard of the group Casting Crowns? Well, yeah, of course you have, because who hasn't? They've been around for quite some time and have been creating incredible music that people the world over have been enjoying. There's an incredible couple, as well as others, but this couple that we're meeting today, they're kind of at the core of Casting Crowns, and we're going to be talking with Mark and Melanie Hall. Will you please help me to welcome them today? Thank you so much for being here. I'm glad you are here and that you're going to sit down and talk to me for a little while.
We can.
This is actually our first time meeting each other, so we get to have a first time conversation right off the bat. This is your newest recording of Casting Crowns, is that right?
It is.
Would you tell us, before we talk about Casting Crowns and just where you've come from and how God has brought you this far, just tell me about Thrive. And look, I love this. This is the roots of the tree. You wanted us to see the roots of the tree
digging
thriving
deep and
underneath.
reaching out. Yeah. Well, I'm a youth pastor at Eagles Landing First Baptist in Atlanta. I've been a youth pastor half my life. And the name of our student ministry is called Thrive because of a mission trip we took about 8 years ago. Went off to Alabama, and somewhere in Alabama, was it Geneva? Mm-hmm. Geneva, Alabama, we come upon this tree, this monumental tree. You can see giant old trees anywhere else in the country, but not in Alabama. They're all pines, and the tornadoes just knock them over every year. So we see this tree that's 300 years old. And we'd never seen anything that's big before. The kids are climbing it. The limbs are so big, they're coming down to the ground, and it's just a really cool moment. And a farmer that was with us told me, he said, you know, if you were to wipe all the dirt away from that, you would see just as many roots as you do limbs. And he kind of did this thing. It's kind of like this when you look at it. And right at that moment, Psalm 1 hit me, and I thought, this is what we need to talk about. And I gathered all the kids around. I said, you know, some believers are all roots. And they want to know more and learn new words and new theologies and new beliefs, but they don't have any love in them, so that they're not worth a lot.
On the upside.
Right.
Yeah.
And some people are all reach. They want to save and rescue and feed and do and go, but they don't have any depth to their faith. So the first storm of life blows by, whew, they're gone.
So you got to have both.
You got to have both.
It's a both and sort of thing.
So Psalm 1 is our verse, and about being a tree planted by streams of water, digging into the Word and reaching out to the world. So it's always, all of our songs you've ever heard from Crowns have been something I've been teaching first. And they've sort of evolved into the songs. So what you have here is I took 12 songs and I wrote 6 songs about digging deep and getting into the Word. Because if you don't get into the Word, you're going to make up God for yourself.
Yeah.
And you're going to come up with a God who's mad at you and whose team you're never going to be good enough to be on. That's the God you're going to come up with on your own. Yeah. You get in the Word, you see a God who uses messy people, and He's bigger than
Aren't we glad that He will?
Tell me.
Yep.
So that's about digging deep. And then what does it look like to reach out? Not to go reach out to the world so God will love me, but to do it because He does.
Yeah.
And just letting God bear the weight of holding you together.
Yeah.
And you just go be. So that's what the record is.
Well, listen, I want to tell you guys that what is so great about the two of you and about those others that are a part of Casting Crown is that y'all are the real deal, that there is integrity, that when you know, it's kind of refreshing. I was talking to a friend of mine just this morning on the way here, and I said, listen, I get so excited when I see somebody from afar that I admire and applaud, and they've received notoriety or awards for what it is that they do. But then when you meet them, they're just like regular people who just like for real love God, and they're passionate about His people and serving. And just the fact that you all are on staff at a church, it's not like you're so busy that you can't be firmly rooted and planted and get your roots down deep somewhere. And you guys have a loving marriage and family. That is sometimes unheard of, unfortunately, that folks are so rooted as you are. We appreciate that. We need people we can point our kids to and that we can look to that aren't just about the show, but also have the roots underneath that. And we really appreciate that about you guys. Tell us how it all started, Melanie. Where did this all come from, the whole Casting Crowns, and how did it begin?
Casting Crowns started in Daytona Beach. Worship band started as a youth praise band. Mark was there and several of the other members that were there and at the time, and then it kind of grew from there. You're better at this story than I am.
Well,
She's better at the nutshell.
I'm the talker. She's the one that tells me later what I need to say right. So it's really good. So I'll start the story, and then you can tell
in
me.
your marriage, like, is he the talker? Is he the one that does
No, she's the smart one. I lead with my mouth.
You
she
lead with
thinks
your mouth.
first. So when she's thinking, I just jump out there, blah, 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 and then she goes, well, actually, there's 11 things wrong with that. But so I'm gonna get this right.
Listen, just so you know, my husband wishes he had your situation where I would think a little.
So you talk first?
Yeah, I've just always got something to say. I'm ready to talk, and he's the one that's sitting there going.
See, that's what God
"Yeah,
does,
no."
isn't it? Isn't it good how God does that?
Yeah.
Let's balance this out a little bit, right? Yeah. But so I went to be youth pastor at Daytona. I've always been a music guy, and I found that I could teach better with songs because maybe they'll know you'll be done in 4 minutes. Maybe that's what it is. But for whatever
So they
reason,
hang in there for
I would use my Stephen Curtis Chapman tracks and whatever little solo tracks I had to try to teach these students that this is a relationship with God. This isn't a building you're visiting once a week. This isn't a worldview. This isn't a diet we're trying. This is who you are. And worship is prayer. Prayer is conversation because this is a person. So I've got to always go back to that. So music's always been a part of it. And pretty soon I just started kind of singing these songs in the car. Just started kind of coming out of nowhere. I'd never really set out to do anything like that before. And I started singing them to my kids. And all of these songs, like If We Are the Body or Voice of Truth, were just me and my youth group in the youth room. I'd never really thought anything past that. So in Daytona, went on staff, met Juwan and Melody, who were in the band. They were engaged. They were leading worship. I said, hey, can I sing with you guys? And they're like, yeah, I guess, you know. So I came in, and we started writing songs together and just building this worship band. So Casting Crowns is a Wednesday night worship band. And the cool thing is, we still are. That's what we do. Sunday through Wednesday, we're home, and we're pouring into the church. And so God really kind of brought Crowns to us. Mark Miller is the singer for a country group called Sawyer Brown. They've been around for years.
Yeah.
They were the first band to win Star Search.
I remember.
And,
that's where I remember them from.
That's
is
right.
Star Search.
Crazy
Oh
guy
God.
with like cow skin pants on, singing
You
country
just
music.
took
It's
me
like,
way
this guy's
back.
crazy. So way back. I was like 2.5. But anyway, I've just seen this on YouTube. I wasn't even alive right then. Anyway, but
Sawyer Brown. Do y'all remember that name, Sawyer Brown?
yeah,
I do.
they're still rocking it. They're still
Yeah.
hitting it hard. And so he hears our music through a college kid who just ran into him at a basketball camp and found out who he was. Goes, you need to hear my youth pastor. And we gave him our little CD that we were giving to our youth group every week. And that's how this started. He calls me, says, hey, I'm at the beach with a friend of mine, Stephen Curtis Chapman. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I've heard of him. Yeah, you know, that kind of thing. And literally just, I'm eating pizza with my teenagers. I walk outside to answer the phone, and this is what I hear. We want to start a label. We want your music to be the first thing we do.
Was your name at that point already Casting Crowns for the group? It was already, so but I want you to finish the story, but tell us, what does Casting Crowns mean?
Well, when we were in Daytona, we were starting to play outside of the church every once in a while for youth rallies or Disciple Now weekends, that kind of stuff. And they realized we need a name, right? Not just the band. And a big worship song for us at the time was "We Fall Down, We Lay Our Crowns."
Yeah.
And that was a cool song for us and our students in our prayer times. And then the verse in Revelation 4, where it talks about the 24 elders around the throne, how they cast their crowns before him. And there really was no other name or no other, that's the one that just came out of Scripture for us. And that's what we became.
So
we've been
Mark
that ever
Miller,
since.
Stephen Curtis Chapman, they say, come aboard, join us.
Come aboard to join us.
And you don't say no when Stephen Curtis Chapman calls. You say, yes, sir.
He still reminds me of my answer. he goes, I've never heard anything like this before, but I said, can I still be a youth pastor? And he said, he paused and he said, yes. And he tells me now, even then, he thought he's not going to be able to keep doing this.
Yeah.
But we really were going to keep doing this. I don't think you would have Crown songs if we weren't in the church. Every song you hear is something that's happening right now. You know.
Yeah.
If I lived in a bus, I'd just be writing songs about my old songs. But we live in real world, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in the midst of all of this, the two of you came together, fell in love, got married. How did that work out? Because you guys, okay, we got to talk about this. Y'all work together because you manage a lot of all this craziness that is Casting Crowns. You're the manager behind all that and the tour manager and all that stuff. So we got to talk about this whole working relationship and loving each other at the same time relationship that y'all have going on. But how did that relationship even start? How'd y'all meet?
We, my father came as a minister of music to the church where Mark and his family went to church when I was in
fifth grade?
I was in middle school and you were in middle school.
Ish, yeah.
Ish. To be exact, you were in the 7th grade and I was in the 9th grade.
You were in the 9th grade. Older woman.
But we but we were friends for a really, really long time and just got to be really good friends. Yeah, he says that now.
No guy is your friend.
No guy is your friend?
No, if a guy is your friend, you just need to know he's not your friend.
He's not.
All guys are just like, no, this could be good. They're just waiting.
Okay.
So yeah, you got
did
that
you get
bestie?
that single women,
Girls,
right?
that bestie
one
that's hanging out with you.
down.
Yeah, watch out.
Got a little Casting Crowns wisdom up in here. Sounds like a book to me, brother.
So we were just really good friends for a really long time through middle school, grew up in the youth group, sang in the choir together and in ensembles together and sang in weddings and stuff. We did a lot of things together. And then one day, the Lord just kind of turned the light on and did some things in Mark's life and in my life. And just, it's almost like he said, you know, here's the light, cue the curtain, and here's where we're about to start a ride that you're, you have no idea what's ahead of you.
It could have been some me. I mean, maybe I had like turned on the smolder that day or something.
Yeah, that was it.
Have you seen that commercial? Have you seen that
Every
commercial?
time she tells the story, it's like, God told me I had to marry him. Like, wait a minute now, come on. Like, I had to, you know, the light hit just right. I
Have
was
y'all
wearing this
seen
cool
that commercial
shirt.
where this
Never.
guy is standing? He's probably like in a coffee shop or something. I don't even remember what the commercial's for. But this guy's just standing there. People are getting coffee and stuff. And then he goes, here comes the sexy. Boom.
Well, I don't have a boom. I'm
You don't have
boomless.
a boom.
I got no boom. So,
No boom.
Yeah.
Well, apparently you had some boom because she
on.
fell in love with you.
That's
Well,
right.
the thing with Mark and I is that because we had been such great friends for so long, it was like God had used all of that time and our relationship together over the years to.
It was God and the boom.
It was
We
God and the
understand.
boom.
We got it.
And it
yes.
was the smolder too.
It was the smolder. Yes. And then you guys have been married how long?
23 years.
And in the midst of those 23 years, how many of those years have been Casting Crowns, management, singing, writing, this wild life?
Well,
The
the
last
writing and the
10.
ministry and stuff was almost immediate. I mean, we got married. I was 20,
Oh yes.
and
We were married and Mark went to Bible college. While during our engagement process, he, which was very short, by the way.
4 weeks.
4 months.
4 months.
But we worked together
Yeah,
during that
you
time
already
when we
had
were
done all that. You didn't
friends.
have
We'd
time for
done all
that
the
anymore.
jobs
Yeah.
together, and he was the Easter Bunny once, and I took the pictures, and yeah.
I was the Easter Bunny at the mall.
We worked at the basket
Were
store at the mall. We
you?
worked at the stationery store at the malls, and we kind of did that
You
as
just-
friends for
yeah.
years. And so then it was like when God said now, we realized, well, yeah, of course, because we just it made the most
to get
sense,
married.
and he was
Sometimes
awesome.
it's just time
and,
to get married.
and he
time.
was, and
Yeah.
to be honest, he was exactly, and I hadn't seen it before because it wasn't time for it wasn't time for me to
Yep.
see it, but I realized that he was exactly what I had asked God for,
Yeah.
you know, and everything that I had asked for. And then it
Yes.
was like God said, okay, now's the time, and
Yeah,
I saw
Melanie,
him
I got to
in that
tell
way.
you, I had that exact instance with Jerry that I met him. We were in a dating relationship, but I was kind of, arm's length. And then one day I was on an airplane and I had fallen asleep. And I mean, it was like the Lord woke me up out of my sleep and I sat straight up. Here I was kind of debating whether or not this guy for me. And the Lord said, everything you have written down on that little mental list of yours that you've prayed for, when I started thinking about those individual things, like Jerry was it right down to the tall and dark chocolate skinned guy that I was looking for. I mean, he was it. It's amazing how God does that. Answers our prayers, and we don't even remember we prayed the prayer.
Oh, yes.
And he's all about the business of trying to answer those prayers or answering them.
You know, for us, we were both in relationships, and I share it a lot with my students that if God really is in control of your life, then he knows where this is headed.
Yeah.
That's where the song Already There comes from that we write, that God's ahead of you right now looking back on your life.
Yeah.
Your future is a memory to him.
Yeah.
So you're worried you're going to pick the wrong person, so you're going and trying all these relationships, which is basically divorce practice is what modern dating is.
I love that.
And it's the let's bond, let's covenant.
that's a word right there.
Let's contract without covenant and try to just be this thing that you can't lean on or trust in. You just how the other person's feeling today until it's not working, and then you're done. And then you go try again. You're training yourself to give up later. And that's the culture that I had fallen into.
Yeah.
And what I try to tell my teenagers is, you're worried that you're with the wrong person or that you're going to marry the wrong person when God is sitting on the front porch with you right now, watching your grandkids play with you. He's way ahead of this. So if you could just walk with him now and thrive where you are, instead of trying to be warm tonight or be held or just have somebody at Valentine's Day, people will start dating and enter into bad marriages and have a hard time and realize it was because they wanted a prom date that got them into all this.
Yeah.
You don't really need all that.
One little night, one little decision that causes you to make a decision that the consequences
Your
are for
heart
a
is a
lifetime.
very, very fluttery, giddy thing, right?
My father once said to me, I've never forgotten it, your emotions don't actually have intellect.
No,
So
they
do
don't.
not follow them because they are not smart.
Don't put yourself in a position when that's going to happen. And we had done that, both of us, and we both crashed and burned at the same time.
Been there, done that. Anybody been there and done that? Yeah.
Change the world for one.
Change the world for one.
Change the world for one.
Orphans don't need stuff. Orphans need families. Join me, Stephen Curtis Chapman, and Show Hope as we help provide orphans with forever families.
You guys have it is not perfect, I'm sure, but you have a successful marriage. And I don't know about y'all, but I have lots of friends that are getting to, it's odd because they're getting to the 20 and 25 year mark and their marriages are falling apart. There are a handful of marriages that I can say, I look at in the distance of 25 years, 30 years, and I go, wow, not only are they still married, but they're happily married. They're friends, they are enjoying each other. I want you guys to tell us, because you've been married how long?
23 years.
Okay, at 23 years, what would you tell a younger couple that maybe you would go back and even do differently, or that you did well that has enabled you to thrive right now at 23 years in your marriage?
Go ahead.
I think that there's one thing that, there are a lot of things, but there is one thing that definitely helps the marriage, because like you said earlier, there are times in marriage that are easy and times that are difficult.
Yeah.
There are times when children are doing what they're supposed to. There are times when parents get sick and people die, and there's so many struggles in marriage because there are struggles in life. But there's one thing besides, obviously, that we're both rooted and grounded in faith and in our relationship with Christ, and that is that we are together in ministry. And so we have this common bond that kind of holds us together, even in those moments when you're like, why did you just do that? And why are we here? And what is this thing going on?
It's a common mission and vision for this union.
It's this common mission that brings you through that rocky point in the road, or that moment in the road when, that's difficult. But it carries you through because it's this common bond that we share, this passion and this desire and this focus to minister the gospel to people in the passion that God's given us for teenagers and for people that are looking and searching. So,
because I feel like marriage has gotten a bad rap, honestly. I feel like people are, single people can be a little bit discouraged when they look at married people sometimes, because there are not a lot of married people that are just having fun. You guys are having fun together. I mean, I'm sure there's struggles because you work together, you live together, you travel together, you're always together. I've got very much the same scenario as you all have. But you're showing that there's still a beauty of marriage that is worth having despite the struggle. Why do you think that marriage has taken such a hit in our culture today, and what can we do to fix it? Because it's a beautiful thing. What do we do to fix it? The image that it has.
Well, it's hard because teenagers are growing up seeing, it used to be just love God and your marriage won't go away. But they're like, hey, we've been in church since I was a kid and my parents' marriage is going away.
that's right.
And so maybe none of this is real anyway. And that's the thing that we're going to have to. One of the things I see that Melanie and I accomplish with our students in our youth group is they get to see what it looks like. And I think a lot of kids are growing up not seeing the model of what it's supposed to look like.
Right.
They don't have
Right.
something to go to.
Visual.
Yeah.
All they hear is, we go to church, nobody has any problems. But when we come out of church, nobody's married anymore. So we go back to church again, and everybody's all dressed up and sitting great and doing fine. But out in the hallway, they're different people. One of these things isn't real.
Yeah. Which one is it?
Which one is it?
Yeah.
Right.
And so for us, it's our teenagers need to see what a marriage looks like. This is what a couple looks like. This is what this is what it looks like when it's hard. This is what so being really transparent and being around them.
Yeah.
If you're in a church right now and you're a believer and you're an adult, congratulations, you're called to student ministry.
Yeah.
You may not teach
are
a
on
class.
assignment.
Yeah, but they're just walking around. Those little road
They're
cones that are
watching.
marking on stuff and tearing the church up are also going to be the adults soon. And they need to see.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah.
Not by teaching, but just by hanging out. You got some in your neighborhood. Have some of these kids kind of do life with you and see how it works.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. So, Melanie, would you please tell us the real deal? We need to know what it is like to have to work with, travel with on a tour bus. I'm assuming you guys travel on tour bus sometimes. So you got to work with, you have to do tour bus stuff with, you've got to live with this same person all the time. There are some people that are watching. There's a wife right now that's watching that's going, I'm so glad my husband goes to work 8 hours today. I don't know what I would do if we weren't apart for a little while. But you guys, look at you, smiles on your faces, and you're actually together all the time.
Yeah, it's just so awesome all the time.
I'm not saying it's awesome all the time, but I'm saying somehow you've made it through the unawesome parts. Did I just make up a word? I think I just made up a word.
Yeah, it's a
You
word.
can do that.
Unawesome parts,
It's
right?
your show, you can do that.
And you're here. So could you just give us, Melanie, from a woman's perspective, for a woman that's watching and she's going, you know what? I want to love my husband well, but I want to be able to know how to deal with the struggle times of the togetherness. Sometimes it's just hard to be together, you know? So tell us how that looks in your life and, you know, how you work through it.
I think that just to go back to what I said earlier, I really think that there has to be a common bond of purpose in your walk with Christ and your focus in ministry. If everyone's going their separate ways all the time, there's nothing to draw you together. So I really believe that that's the thing that holds us together, that, you know, kind of like love covers a multitude of sins. And it's the same way with the passion for ministry that we both have in common, you know, and that's what we cling to, is the thing that we have in common, and the fact that it's something that's beyond, you know, tennis or, you know, something, you know, it helps to put it all in perspective.
But do you guys just like make sure you separate your dating life from work life? Because sometimes you can be together so much that you forget, oh, we actually haven't gone out on a date. We haven't actually talked to each other. We've just been together doing business stuff and getting the kids here and, you know, and planning the tour. But we haven't actually had a candlelight dinner and looked at each other and talked.
And if we do have a candlelight dinner, usually it's, hey, let me look at our dates for next week and see. So, yeah, we'll tell you if we figure that out. I mean, that's something you're always working at. So there'll be some times when we can keep crowns off the table or not talk about homeschool for a while. But at the same time, that is who we are too. Yeah. So I guess you got to see the beauty of all of it. I need the hang time, just you and me, but the homeschool needs to be you and me, and everything needs to be you and me. So I need to be engaged in school and hearing and thinking through all the stuff she's working on, and being absolutely no help with math. Dyslexic dad is not a lot of help with math, but I need to see the value of what she's doing, and I see it by diving in it.
Yeah, and
I can do words and
doing.
Instagram posts about how awesome a husband I am all day long, but she knows if I am or not. So this is the only one I got to impress here. So I'm good with words. I can just gab it all up. So she's not hearing that. Yeah. Darling, you're so magical at this. Oh, I love it. And she's like, You hadn't been here in a whole day, you know. So I got to meet her
home and help with this math.
That's right. Just dive into some math. So that helps. I think another thing that helps is we find commonality, but we also, guys, have to see the beauty of the opposites in us. Like you were saying, you and your husband are different. Yep. She and I are different. It took a long time for me to appreciate her left brainness and her to see my right brainness as okay. Because I was threatened by how sharp she is. And you just say, hey, why don't we do this tomorrow? Well, and she can see a month out right now in her head. She's probably planning an event for next month. Right now.
As we're talking,
so
she's planning
she's awesome at that. And it threatened me. So I'm the youth pastor, all head up in the clouds. Wouldn't this be cool, guy, is everything I do. Yeah. And she would figure out why it needed to be different. And it would threaten me, so I would push her away. And that made for some rough years. Because I couldn't see that God sent her on purpose. So
to put some structure to all of your ideas and vision. We need those opposites, but it does cause for some rough years. And those rough years are what we're going to talk about in the second half of our conversation. We are having two different opportunities to speak to this incredible couple. You've just watched part one, so you're going to want to make sure to tune into part two. But will you please help me to thank these incredible people, Mark and Melanie Hall, for being with us today. That's good stuff. That was good stuff.